I'm here with co-host for Britain's Rare Guitars, Becky Baldwin, who is also one of the UK's finest rock bass players in her band Fury. And that's handy as we're about to talk to Martin Sims at Sim Guitar Works UK. Hello Martin.
Hello Lars, good to see and hear from you.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
You're more than welcome, sir.
Most chances are, if you've seen a guitar or bass guitar with coloured LEDs all over the fingerboard, it's the work of Martin Sims, of course.
Yeah, that's my cross to bear on that one, Lars, but I'm happy to.
Martin, in the early days you installed the LEDs without removing the fingerboard. Is that a process you still do today if a customer wants a custom install?
Hi Becky, good to see you and hear from you. Yes it is. I realised way back that I wanted to have LEDs myself, but just had no idea how to fit them, and removing the fingerboard just seemed to be just a no-go. So once I've worked out how to fit those LEDs without removing the fingerboard for my own bass, which is really why I did it way back in about, I think, the early 90s back then. But since then, yeah, it's always been the same now. We don't do any installs in the fingerboards and then glue the fingerboards down, because I don't like the idea of not being able to get in there if there's ever any issues. And with our system, it's completely serviceable, so it takes a lot of the pressure off if anything was to go wrong. And with electronics, chances are now and again things can go wrong.
I don't think I've really ever heard of any of them going wrong. They certainly are reliable. But I think I first saw Sims LEDs fitted to basses. I think it must have been around the mid-90s. Was that when you first showcased them?
That would have happened around about, I think it was November when the show was then, of 94. So ever since then, I don't think we've ever not had installations in to do. So it's been quite remarkable, really. I'm really pleased we're able to do it. You
fitted some LEDs into some big name brands. Which were the first brands to ask you, and were you prepared for them?
The first high profile player would have been Billy Sheehan, who we met at the Bass Centre, one of the Bass Centre clinics that Barry Morehouse used to run with Martin Gravestock. So I got a phone call from Martin and I shot into town towards the end of his clinic, and then we met up afterwards, discussed it all through, and he left that bass, which was his prototype Yamaha he was playing then. I mean, this would have been around, this would have been about 96, 97, something like that. And he left me with his prize of that prototype Yamaha Attitude, and I delivered it back to him, I think, after about 2 days. Met up in London and got it back to him, and he was thrilled. So that was the first person that ever sort of stepped forward and said, yes, this is something that I really want. And of course that was, like with most things, it's like opening a tap.
Last time I saw you was at the NAMM show in LA in 2020, and like all the guitar stands and the booths have got big flashing lights. You don't need any lights. The LEDs speak for themselves. But of course, when people come into the stand, they get closer, and they see these unique designs, and they are unique within your pickups. Tell us about those.
Well, with the pickup designs, in particular, once again, wanting to sort of move on and see how far we could take different things. I always knew with the pickups that we're in a very conservative market, especially with basses. You've got your J-Bass fans, you've got your P-Bass fans, and your Music Man fans, all obviously hats off to Leo Fender for those. And I just always felt that the difference between them, those pickups, the actual function of those pickups was so dramatic, the differences, that if I could ever produce a pickup that would be able to have all three of those in one casing, then that would be absolutely great. And it was a natural move on as well from the LEDs that we're fitting in the necks.
We believe you've been working with some boutique guitar makers such as Granger. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, we've worked with Granger, AGC. We've been working with Spectre, with Rudy Zazo, with his own signature model, which has been really exciting to be able to work with a company like Spectre as well. Really privileged to be able to do that.
This has been in the work for a couple of years at least, and so what I was really trying to find, what can I bring something unique that still is a Spectre, right. Like, the Spectre player is used to, the feel and the whole, the sound of the bass itself. But have a unique, and I stumbled upon this booth at NAMM like 2 or 3 years ago, Sims pickups. made in England, handmade. Everything is made in England. And what I saw these and I said, wow, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Something unique that will retain the fundamental qualities of the great Spectre legacy, but add something that the other Spectre bases don't have, which is actually what Sims pickups, how they work is that right now the red light indicates that this is a split pickup setting, like you find on a Precision, basically.
Gotcha.
Then you go to the green, which is a single coil setting, and then the blue will be a humbucker. So you're using the four pickups that are actually built into this unit right here. There's 4 different magnets in here. Yeah. So, but then what it does is creates all these different possibilities. Like this would be let's say you just turn on the volume for this pickup here. That is your Precision. You pick your right. It still sounds like a Spectre, but a Spectre with a split pickup. Right now, once I add the tone pump preamp, which is active preamp, I start adding tone to it, then start sounding more of like a modern instrument, especially in the high.
If we imagine there are a lot of different reasons why basses sound the way they do. It could be the actual configuration of the pickup that will give a certain sound, P, J, Music Man, we all know those. But it's also the positioning that those pickups are in the scale length. That will also make a huge difference as the string vibrates. It vibrates at different rates across that string, and it picks up and excites the magnet and coil, because these are old school pickups, by the way, aren't they? They've just got magnets and coils the same as any other pickup would have. There's no mystery there. It's really down to the switching side. So depending on where you place those, if this neck pickup here is placed on the Precision where it would be in the scale length, then when we go to red mode, we would have a Precision bass, because in the red mode, this coil is on and this coil is on, but this coil's off and this coil's off. So that means that these are the ones that are active. Therefore, we have our classic P bass. Moving to the green, this pickup is now off and it comes here. These both are live. And then with the blue, we have the Music Man, where all 4 are acting together as humbucking pickups. So when we put that together with a little pan pot, and we can now have both pickups, we now have, as it were, 15 distinct different tones.
So let's have a closer listen to some of these tones. First of all, let's try the single coils together. So this is pretty much a standard Fender Jazz configuration with both pickups up full. And you see there, I've got them both set to green. So let's have a listen to how that sounds. Now, if I stay in this Fender Jazz configuration with both pickups set to green and then I solo the bridge, we get more of that kind of nasally Jacko jazz bass twang, which sounds more like this.
So if I wanted to fit Sims pickups into one of my basses, how easy is that to do? Could I do it myself, or would I need to send it away to a professional?
Well, that kind of depends on the skill set. One of the things I built in with the quads, along with plenty of others, but one of the things I built in was that I didn't want to have to add any burden of extra skill sets to any guitar builder. So if you can fit a standard pickup or anybody's pickup, if you can handle a router and you're careful and you know what you're doing, then anybody can fit them. One of the ideas was that we developed in with the pickup is a lot of snap connectors, because there's so many wires that are going through that rather than have to solder all these wires, they just snap connect together. So that makes all of the actual installation really ridiculously simple. But everything's on our website as you'd expect. We've got router guides and all sorts of little helps and things that people can go to see what's needed. And like I say, if you can fit the standard pickup, you can fit the super quads, no problem.
Martin, let's talk about the other side of the business. Highly successful too, it is, and it's the respraying of guitars and finishing for a host of brands using cellulose lacquers. Now, do you think lacquers, well, there's soft lacquers available now, aren't they, that age a little bit quicker, like guitars from the 70s?
Yeah, well, nowadays you've got a huge choice, Lars. Huge choice of lacquers. But of course, the strange thing is we're now, in some of the work that we're doing, emulating very poor quality lacquer, because that's what it was in the 50s and the 60s. It was that sort of shellac cellulose, which is okay for a short while, but it will crack, as everyone knows, when it gets cold, and it will dent and ding or produce a certain patina, which people have grown to love over the years. So yes, some cases we'll use a lacquer that's not very resilient to knocks and bumps and cracks, but most of the time that people want to have that up-to-date modern shine on a bass, will go for one of the more modern, what we call 2K lacquers, which are a chemical cure, and they're a lot more resilient, but they don't quite have that look that Nitro has. So it really depends on which camp you're in, Lars, from point of view of players themselves. Some people will want to have their guitars kept absolutely immaculately and with every part, not a fingerprint on them, and other people want the rock and roll aspect of seeing something that's had a bit of a life, and that suits their way of thinking. So that's really dependent on the customer. But we have a choice now, Lars, whereas back in the 50s they didn't. Customers would come to us and say, can you do this design? And rather than think, well, no, because we haven't done it before, you're thinking there must be a way around it, and 9 times out of 10 there is. But the personalisation side's been incredible, and obviously more recently with the folks at Brian May Guitars being able to produce album covers on the front of guitars and be able to use those iconic images is just such a joy for us to be able to do. Sometimes we'll just do a one-off, and other times we'll do 50. Like for Fender, we do the customization work for Fender Europe, and a lot of the time when they're working with a company that's linked, maybe like Coca-Cola or somebody that's sponsoring them at the time, we can work with the likes of Coca-Cola, working with O2, working with huge respected brands, and be trusted to get their work done on time, on spec, and on budget.
So Martin, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show today.
Well, thank you, Becky. It's been great to be on. I've really enjoyed myself, being able to explain some of the crazy stuff that we're doing here.
Crazy indeed, but what a wonderfully skillful firm you have there. Martin, I totally agree. Very good interview. Thank you so much for coming on Britain's Rare Guitars.
Thank you, Lars. It's been an absolute pleasure.